You should be able to trust them more because you know that they didn't do it.
No, I can't. They don't.
Joey was a baby. Can we trust him?
Nah, you could have done it.
He could have done it. He was a baby.
He was like Boss Baby. I mean, let's be real. Boss Baby owned the universe.
And Boss Baby killed somebody accidentally. So.
Yeah, so I mean, so
He
like,
did?
so like,
Shout out.
realistically, like, it's kind of that kind of party today.
I thought
Like,
you meant the actual.
Yeah, well, technically.
Make some jokes on millennials. Say how you'll be Gen Z, but how millennials is the best.
Jobs are like the least
Generation.
millennial I know though. Like
Not really.
if you see all like the jokes about millennials, they're all very hipster. Like the jokes about
Josh
millennials.
is pretty hipster though.
Yeah, I guess he's wearing a nope.
He's just not. He's just not gay.
I wanted to make you guys feel comfortable, so I wore this shirt.
I do
kind of
like
like.
my mom has a shirt.
Because like the numbers, like the statistics that I have on your generation are not promising.
I'll be real. I got home from school, said hi Ethan, fed him, gave him some food, left.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are only gonna make up like 26% of the global population. Like, you guys are only gonna make up like 40% of the consumer base, and like I think it says like 55% of. 27% of the workforce in 2025. So, like, statistically,
Well,
you guys.
I won't even be graduated yet.
How is that possible?
Yes, I will. I will be graduating
Well,
in 2025.
In 2025. How does that make sense?
Well, because
Do you mean like actual workforce?
Oh well, when do we end too? Because that's a thing.
I think it's the year Haley was born. Is it 20? I think it's 20.
See, that's
2010, 2012 is like.
So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because how old's Haley?
Actually, wait, Haley, when were you born?
2010.
I'm a 10, yeah.
Actually, so Haley's actually Gen Z. When was Aiden born?
Oh,
12.
12. Aiden's the end of Gen Z. Gen
Okay.
Alpha doesn't start
So
till
yeah, that
2014.
stat actually makes a lot of sense because the later end are only 10, 11 years old, 12.
And also, like most are, if it's talking about like the actual workforce and not just like a part-time job, most
I think that
most
that's
Gen Z
that's
don't
considered
graduate
workforce.
until
The workforce encompasses like any job.
any-
Yeah.
At any level. But you can't get hired until you're 16, which in 2025, half of our
Yeah.
generation of people wouldn't even be close to that.
It's
In
a
our state, you
conversation
can
we
get hired at
definitely should be
14.
having in the
Huh?
In our state,
Yeah,
you get hired
true.
at 14.
Yeah, but it's very unlikely.
Here's the bottom line. Bring your personal perspectives to it. Now, the cool thing about this, which I really think is awesome, is you guys kind of all have really different insights. Like, you know, you're like a college nerd with good grades and a baby.
Oh, yeah.
You're like put your nose.
Stoner burnout.
You're a
with
dummy with no baby.
Yeah,
No
I'm
baby.
a stoner burnout with no baby.
I was gonna say you're a hustler, which
Yeah.
I mean,
With no baby.
because I mean,
That's true.
well,
I
let's,
wish I had a baby.
Real talk, I bumped into Dom at Chick-fil-A the other day.
let's put the brakes on that for your mom's sake. You know the
I
whole.
felt kind of awkward because he said, "It's like this is Dom speaking," and I was like, "Oh, I know who you are."
I
You don't know. He was like, "You don't know who I am yet."
I did.
You have that suave voice on the.
I speak so. How fast do I
It's
speak?
so fast. I was
So
it was so quick.
fast.
All I caught from what he said was Dom.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh.
I just can't. I don't have the time in the world.
I was literally buying my boss lunch.
No, but bring the point of this is bring some of your personal experience into it. We'll have some fun. I'll bring some scripture into it because of course that's one of my main goals. So there's some verses that help some of your Gen Zers and some of my millennials kind of find their way.
Yeah, I think the scripture part of it is fun too because we have different spectrums of that as well. Where you obviously were brought up in that household, you're the child of a pastor. Will got into it a little bit later in life. I've been in the church my whole life, and Sierra has that kind of in and out perspective as well. So I think that gives a very broad.
This is very
Well,
different church backgrounds.
I also we're gonna
Which is crazy because it's all this. It's
Pretty
primarily the same church.
Well, and what I love about this is it kind of sets us up because I want to bring you guys back with Joey for another episode down the line that's called "The Path Not Traveled," which talks about like how like those of us who grew up in the church, which will be like the only outsider on that program because we all grew up in the church, and how what turned us off, why we get turned off by certain things, what made us kind of like second guess like us wanting like, but we won't get into that today because this is prep for the Mind the Gap.
Yeah, but it's because that church upbringing first.
Let's do a quick sound
I
check
learned
when
that
we
the
turn on
world
our
sucks,
mics.
and like I had to
You
go
can
back. The
hear
world
it in
sucks.
those-
You at church being like, no, the world seems
You
fun.
can hear our sound in
Then you
those
got it at the
headphones?
wrong time because you're at child, birthing age, and they're like, oh, this is what the real world is. No, I have a cute baby.
My cute baby. My cute baby's gonna be 1 in exactly a month.
I love him so much.
Isn't that wild?
I can't wait till he grows.
I can't wait till he walks so I can hold him like this.
Apparently he pulled himself up on his walker today and started walking with it by himself.
He's almost
He's
there.
Almost there.
He's almost there.
Basically an old man,
Basically.
It's so funny how babies age, they progress in reverse order.
Yeah.
You know how old people, they
Figure out how to walk. They need
they
walkers.
walk
they
and then
put
they
their pants
slowly
in.
forget how to walk and then they need the walkers and then they go down and then they can't walk at all and then
I
they're
know
crawling
some
around to try and
old
get
people
food.
that are still kicking.
Yeah, but eventually that stuff happens. But
Maybe
babies are born from that end stage of an old person, and then they gradually learn how to be a regular person until they eventually will go back to where they originated.
I should have just taught you to be potty trained from the get-go. Just hold it with.
Piss.
Alright, Sierra, talk to me a little bit.
Hello.
I need a lot more than hello.
I don't know what to say to you.
There we go.
Yeah, just roll, keep going.
He said there you go, so I'm assuming it's fine.
Yeah.
Now
you're
you're
just
good.
doing this.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is high or low enough.
And
Higher or low enough for what?
Is this good mouth level?
That's why I like the headphones because I use the headphones and my podcast to gauge how far and how close I can be to our mics.
That helped when I was on.
I forgot you were on.
I was on it.
Yeah, you were on as a mediator.
I was on it pretty early.
Yeah, probably early 10 or 15. First 10 or 15, I'd say. Because we didn't end up getting Will until
Will was there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because we didn't end up getting Will until later on. So, but it was still early. Because I think we called Will within the first 8 maybe. Me and Joey recorded a bunch on our own.
Mm-hmm.
you guys have some really sweet podcast voices. I will tell you.
Well, I am a
Sexy
podcaster,
voices.
so.
I just like to talk.
Although I'm just saying, I don't know if you heard last week's show, but I was told that Will has the smoothest radio voice. People listen.
I
I
can
am not a
imagine.
piece of meat.
Will's black.
I can imagine Will as a radio host, honestly.
I found out today that there's a guy at Joey's work that falls asleep listening to our podcast because mine and Joey's voices are so soothing.
So is that a compliment or is that
Yeah, I think so. He said that.
I don't think it's creepy.
There was an episode the other day where we were talking about something and
They treat you like
without
ASMR
pants,
artists.
being without
Hey.
pants for some reason, and he woke up
sleep
to
on
us talking about
ASMR
being pantsless, and he was like, "I gotta turn this off."
Don't sleep on
Yeah,
ASMR.
I'm in bed listening to two
I fall
girls talk
asleep to
about
ASMR every
being
night.
without pants.
I don't like
I'm
the
good for
mouth
2 hours.
noises though. I only like
Those
the
freak
cat.
Can I see those
Don't-
headphones for a
don't
second,
do mouth
Joey? Just so I can
noises.
see
It sounds like you're spitting
My-
on me.
where I can be and where I cannot be.
Do you hear about
Can you-
spit painting?
Wow, this is low. This is quiet. How do you get any type of gauge
Can
on
I hear?
this?
Can I hear my?
how? Because my ears were just candled, so I could hear like a gnat
I
flapping
mean, that's
its wings.
crazy.
Hello? Oh, I have to be really close.
I don't even think so. I think it's just really quiet in the headphones.
Oh, it's just in the headphones because that has the main out in it. Because I'm using it through the Bluetooth, I don't have to. So this has 4 individual outs that I can use for the actual microphones.
Okay.
However, I lost my wire, so I need to
Sierra.
buy a wire.
They
I
have
wish
this
I
new
wish I
trigger.
bought. I wish I
They have
bought.
this new trigger called.
I'm gonna be so self-conscious the entire time.
Yo, I
Like
hate that. It's
Don't
it's
forget,
Don't
gross.
forget, I'm also watching
I
your
like
levels.
bugs.
I know.
It reminds me of when
What's
my
nice is
mom
I now
was
know where
when
my
I was,
level
like,
is.
young.
I know I'm at third
Yeah.
channel.
She'd be like,
So I need sweet sounds, William.
What channel am I? Hello?
she'd be
Hello?
like,
Good
oh,
channel,
Haley,
too.
you got some chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can definitely
Yes.
imagine Will as a radio host, so I'd listen to that, and I don't listen to the radio.
Let me hear
That
you.
guy
Will.
Brew.
Hello. Testing
Oh,
1 2.
Brew on the radio. I
Who?
love him.
Brew?
It's Brew.
There's this TikToker who's a radio
Yeah,
host named
TikTok.
Brew,
Yeah.
Sweet.
but he's actually really good. He's
All right.
Robert Tunyon to the Bears.
Okay.
my nose hurts so bad,
Mine too also hurts.
really bad.
I got slammed in the face with a basketball today.
I
I
know.
might be concussed again.
Oh, my nose has just been swollen for 3 days.
It's been 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
god.
at first,
Why'd you wait so long to get your nose
because
fixed?
sometimes my nose piercing just hurts because you have a piece of metal in your nose, and sometimes that gets uncomfy. So you
Sometimes
just
it's infected.
so you just clean it, and it's fine. It's basically like, hey, it's dirty, clean it. But but then it didn't go away like it usually does after I cleaned it. So I was like, I think and my dad's allergic to nickel, So I was like, okay, maybe I'm just allergic
Is he?
to
That's
metal.
mad soft.
Maybe
I'm
I'm
not
just
gonna
allergic to
be
metal
funny.
too. He has to like put like nail
That's
polish,
mad
like
soft.
clear nail polish on his belts because like the belt buckles nickel.
Next time I go to your house, I'm gonna just bring a bag of like nickels, even though I know it's not the same thing. That's so funny. Does this scare you, Joe?
Freaking out.
I met a criminal with a bounty over his head.
What?
What a weird place to keep paper towels.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
Hilarious.
All right.
Ooh, this is the generation that
That
sticks.
is. That
So
is.
funny.
All right,
That's
y'all
the
ready?
end of Gen Z right there.
we got to make sure that doesn't happen over the course.
Yeah, Haley, it's time for you to have your silent voice. We all have our phones on silent.
No heckling.
I'm like the worst with this, so let me make sure my laptop's also silenced because sometimes my laptop
Mine is
goes
silent,
cling.
but it might buzz.
When I went on for my interview
Sometimes
with
it buzzes. It
Eleven's
buzzes
Health,
on certain
I
sides.
was so concerned because I never use my laptop. So when I turn it on, I'm just constantly getting notifications. And I can't have it muted because I didn't have headphones because I only have over-the-ear headphones.
Oh, I just
and
got
I
it
leave
over
them at
there.
work.
Nice.
So I couldn't mute my computer because I had to hear the guy speak to me. But I couldn't like continue. I can't just do not disturb my computer because for whatever reason it doesn't work. So I was just like, I gotta pray I don't get any text messages. A Mac, yeah.
Yeah, I was texting in class on my Mac today, and I forgot to turn it off. So my teacher just heard them zoop noise, and I was like,
So
"Oh."
she totally caught you. You were definitely caught.
She just kind of looked at me, and I was like, "Sorry."
All right, here we go. All right, guys, just have fun, okay?
Okay.
Well, always, always have fun. That's what I do best.
I just like to talk.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another week as we join some good friends in studio today at our Temporary Insanity podcast.
We're in the studio.
Technically we're in Will's dining room
We're in
slash
the
studio.
studio.
We decided to take a field trip. My name's Josh, I'm your host. I'm here with my smooth sounding brother-in-law and good friend, Will McCoy. How you doing, Will?
Hello out there, people.
And this week we have a special treat with our dear friends, Mr. Domenic Percival and Miss Sierra Tanzi. How you guys doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I think I've just kind of going to become a little self-conscious today because I think I have the least smooth radio voice out of everybody here today.
It's very forced. You're kind of just pushing for it. I think you are a little nervous because we come in with that heat.
For real. I mean, mine is like a little more on the nasally side. You guys have like that nice baritone, and then Sierra's got like that sweetness to
I
it.
think
So
I'm just quiet.
Sierra's very quiet, and I'm exhausted. I've been hooping for like 2 hours now.
Well, we're excited because today we're going to be taking a little bit more of a light approach to our program. Over the past few weeks, we've been hitting some hard topics like talking about In Trump We Trust, and then the week before was Made in China, and then the week before we talked about revival. Today, we talk about a topic that's been in the queue called Mind the Gap. Quite frankly, I think that I'm going to get a little schooled, I don't know, Will's pretty smart, so I don't know how schooled he'll get, but today's topic is basically talking about how there's a couple of, differences that take place from generation to generation, and I know that every generation claims to be the greatest. I mean, the boomers are always telling us how they're the greatest generation.
It's a lie.
There's honestly no ifs, ands, or buts about how false that statement is.
I mean, and how cocky are some of these generations? Because you even have like the generations like the quote unquote the greatest generation, right? Like just like in the name, they call themselves the greatest
I
generation.
understand
If they
why
were the
it's
greatest,
called
they
that.
would still be alive. But
I don't think that's how aging works.
well, they're old. I mean, you
Most
can't be
of
the
them are
greatest,
dead.
but you can't be the greatest and not be here.
That's fair.
Well, to be fair, you guys did just before the program call me old, and I'm only going to be 35. So
You're old.
I think we have to.
I mean, compared to everyone else in the room.
Yeah, you are the top of the millennial food chain right now.
Oh goodness. Well, we do have Haley in the room, so Haley, she can call all of us elderly if we really wanted to.
We can just call Haley young.
She doesn't know what she's talking about because she's
You're young. You're too young. You can't. You
You
can't understand
you
the
are the part
complex.
of the generation that ate
The
Titans.
complex ideas that run through our head. You're too young for them.
But in all honesty, what's funny is from generation to generation, we see how times change, and there's always like a segregated difference within each group. I mean, in every group, you're gonna have like the hustlers. You're gonna have the lazy, like for the lack of better words. And please don't take me the wrong way. If maybe maybe you're not lazy, maybe you're just, you know,
motivated.
Yeah, not as driven, I guess.
yeah, less than, or maybe you have like maybe you're an out of the box thinker, like, you know, I'm using air quotes here.
That almost sounds more offensive than lazy.
Well, I had a kid come up to me one time. I was like, you know, he came into my office and he sat down. He was asking me, you know, I was interviewing this kid for a job, and you know, we're talking about the job spec and all that stuff, and he's kind of like sitting there, and I'm asking him like the simple interview questions, and as we're talking about the interview questions, he's you know, I'm asking what motivates him and what excites him, and this kid, you know, he's fresh out of school, and honestly, it was just a little awkward, and I kind of looked at him and I was like, listen, I don't want to waste your time. I'm just going to be upfront with you. Like, I just don't think this is going to be a good fit. And the kid sat there for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, now I'm in my office. I'm trying to do, like, I have work to do. Like it's one of those things. Like kid, I can't really sit here. Like I felt awkward. It's like, what do I do here, right? And the kid just sits there and he's waiting, and I'm like, hey man, can I ask you a question? Like, is there a problem? Like, are we on the same page? Like, you know, like, best of luck to you. You know, so he kind of just. So I looked at him. I was like, you know, did you just come in here expecting that this job was just gonna be yours because you went to school, you had the paper? And he's kind of like, well, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, you know, I felt bad because one of his biggest strengths was he looked at me. He goes, well, you know, I'm one of those out of the box thinkers. I'm like, well, I'm not looking for an out-of-the-box thinker. I'm looking for a field technician that's going to be an in the truck, get out of the truck, and get to work kind of thinker. You know, like take the tools out. So you know, so I gave him a friendly piece of advice, and it's funny because I know this is where you guys are going to probably be like, hey, Josh, you sound like an old man here. You know, school is great. Some people are studious. I'm not saying not to go to school, whether it be college, folk school. You know. Trades are awesome. You know, people are needed in the trades. I mean, honestly, look at an electrician, at plumbers. You know, they make big money. But the one thing that's necessary in all things is the hustle. The hustle has to be real. And if you don't have that work ethic, you're not going to make it. Some of the and I told this kid, I says, listen, can I tell you a secret? Some of the wealthiest people I know don't even have a high school diploma, but they have drive. You know, and I think that's one of the things that we see from generation to generation is that, you know. You have some people in each generation, whether they be boomers or Gen X, and then, you know, our millennial generation, and you guys are Gen Z, and then we have Gen Alpha that follows thereafter, and then whatever's going to come after that. And at this point, they're just making it all up. You know, but some people are driven and some people are not. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference when we see, and especially when we talk about some of the statistics on this program, you know, how people do, like, and where they end up in life. I mean, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents to start off the program.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to any type of work ethic, there's always like, I feel like, especially with, I don't know if it's just people our age or whatever, but it's something that I see, is that people think just a work ethic is one thing. A work ethic is, in theory, maybe just like your ability to work hard at something and to stay focused on a task and push forward, drive, whatever, yada yada. But like, if you're going into like an interview type process, there's always like, you have to like alter what you're willing to like focus your work ethic on based on the job that you're going for, right? So in that kid's situation, I know maybe I'm a super good out of the box thinker, but if that's not what he needs, I'm going to make sure that he knows that I have those strengths as well. Because if you're an out of the box thinker, why can't you be a straightforward, straight line thinker at the same time? Because you have to be one to be the other. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in this particular case, he was a little too out of the box. He was awkward.
Out of his corner.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, you know, in my line of work, we deal with owners of companies and stuff like that. I needed someone that was going to be, yeah, you could be out of the box. I love out of the box thinkers, but don't be awkward about being out of the box. You know, be a little bit more in the box with, you know, not being. Oh, well, that's a story for another day. But listen, what I love about our topic today is as we talk about this, you know, and look, we're not going to solve like the world's problems here in our discussion, but I mean that would be pretty awesome. And if we do, we expect compensation. Okay, you know, we are available for think tanks. You know, because we hear that those are special
classes,
right? Master class. But you know, one of the things that I love about us is we have a nice little group of different backgrounds. We have a good little flavor here. And as we go through, we'll be kind of presenting some of our different flavors, and I think that we'll have some fun. But most of all, one of the things that I want to talk about is motivation. Motivation is one of the key elements, and honestly, over the past few years, perhaps that's the secret ingredient that's been missing. I mean, I've caught up with some of my high school friends, and listen, I'm only 35, so we're gonna put this on the table right now. It's not that long ago that I graduated high school in 06, okay? Now granted, you were probably like, what,
I
2?
was 4.
Okay, I'm just
I'm 20 years old.
Do the math, Josh. 2002, 2006.
There's a reason why I'm not in
I
a
graduated college a really long time ago, guys.
I mean, but it's funny because I still run into some of the people, and it's either one of two things happen in my generation, the people I graduated with. Either some of them are hyper successful, and then some of them, still doing the whole paycheck to paycheck, couch surfing, I'm not saying anything against anybody, you do you, and some people's priorities are different than others, but but why is that?
I don't know, I look at generations, you can isolate any one, and it's like broken down into like 3 phases. It's like the older sibling, the middle sibling, and the younger sibling. They're usually the older in the generation, they're the go-getters, right? Because they're fresh, they're usually a little older. That's where their motivation is. And you have the middle, kind of couple years younger, they see how hard the older millennials for my instance work. It's okay, that's nice, but I can tweak that a little bit to kind of skirt by, so I don't have to work as hard. And you got the younger of the generations, they're both working hard, so I'm gonna do none of that and hope life just works out. For say college, for instance, I had to pay for college for CCRI. My generation, just a couple years younger, they get college for free. So they don't have to work they don't have to be as motivated, because now they're the younger kid getting stuff handed to them. It's oh, yeah, you're the younger sibling. Oh, here's, the phone at the, younger age than your siblings. Here's this for free, here's that for free. Oh, we can help you along. And it's okay, why are they going to be motivated? They don't have to be. They're getting stuff handed to them, at least from a millennial standpoint. So it's interesting seeing the breakdown, how the older ones have to work a little harder, and the younger they go, the less work they feel they have to put in.
Well, for motivation, I also feel it really depends on where someone is in their life.
True.
My motivation is what motivates me is probably a lot different than what motivates Domenic. Because for example, I have a kid, and that's really just making me not drop out of school right now. But Dominic's motivation could be
the bag, honestly.
The bag. That's just as good.
Yeah.
Explain to an old timer like me what the bag is. Is that money?
It's money.
Just want to make sure. Okay.
The bag is it's money. It's
money
the
bags.
ability for you to be financially stable enough where you have a little bit of something to throw around and still live a good life.
But I love what you guys bring up here, and honestly, I didn't want to press the issue, but let's start off with Sierra's point here. First of all, for those of you who are listening, her kid is totally adorable. I mean, my boy is. I mean, Mr. Baby is cute. I mean, that kid is gonna be trouble, my man.
It will be trouble.
It'll be a little heartbreaker.
It will be a heartbreaker.
Oh yeah. I mean,
You seen those eyelashes?
Yep.
Girls are gonna swoon.
Yep.
He's gonna be growing up with me, so I'm gonna teach him a thing or two. But
Keller, lady Keller, we're gonna start calling him soon.
I mean, he's already gotten me in trouble numerous times because I go into we'll be just out and about, and Nancy just yells at me because every time we pass Carter's, I'm I gotta go in there and get something for the baby, And now I have double trouble because now I have a new nephew too.
I know, you have a bunch of babies.
So it's Carter's. Wait, 70% off? Wait a second.
Well, it's
Honestly,
the
that's
more
not
he
bad.
grows, the more fun it is to dress him because clothes get less ugly. Baby clothes, when they're newborns, kind of ugly.
Well, it's
I'm not
'cause
gonna lie.
80% of the time when newborns are born, they're pretty.
Well, I just bought him the cutest little outfit
They're,
for his
functional.
dedication next
Yeah,
Sunday.
they're just babies.
I spent $30 on this outfit. Ridiculous.
No, but
I try not to spend $30 on outfits for myself.
Ridiculous. I'm hoping it just means it's a little better quality, but it's ridiculous.
Well, but let's go back to the motivation talk. I mean, so you made a really good point. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, you've always been, the studious go-getter. I mean, kid, in school, you've always been that smart student type, good grades, you've always been that picturesque person that had a plan. You've kind of been driven as to what you wanted to be, what you wanted to achieve. And to be completely frank, you don't have quite the personality of the person that's going to let anybody push you out of that mindset. I mean, you're pretty much, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to get it, and you're pretty much ready to throw some elbows to get there. I mean, that's a very good and unique quality. I mean, I think that if anything, the baby made it that much more decisive for you to be like, you know what, nobody was going to get in my way before. You know, I was going to trample over whatever I had to trample to do what I had to do, but now I have my kid, and now it's like, wait a second, because now you have like that mama bear, like, okay, I'm going to do what I got to do. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It definitely, like, obviously having a kid, honestly, having a kid was never really part of the plan, like, even in the future.
A long time.
A long time. It was
always
never
there.
really a part of the plan, but you know, accidents happen. But obviously, like, I love my child more than life itself, but I feel like now that he is, like, now that he does exist, and even more like now that he's like, I don't want to say like more sentient, but like now that he's like,
is more
now that
sentient.
he's like, you know, crawling around and like
He
actually like,
exists.
hey, you're my mom, and I recognize that. It's like, it feels like, well, now I'm like gonna be spending almost like 10 years in school for a reason. Like, it does motivate me a lot more.
Well, look, I got
Not to call my kid an accident, you know what I meant.
Yeah. Things happen.
He was a mistake.
Happy
No,
accident.
it's not.
He was a happy
Bob Ross
mistake.
says it's
Happy accident, which
He
is
was-
fine
he's
because I was
here.
also an accident. So we're just continuing down
And
that
as
road.
was I.
full disclaimer to my friends who are your parents. This was not intended. So I love you both, and your daughter is fully speaking on her own bequest. Okay, but
I signed a contract.
we are not being held liable for anything that is being said on the broadcast today.
Oh, that's liable. I dare you.
But you know, clearly, since you opened the door, and you know, I don't want to put any discussions on the table that you're not comfortable with. But I mean, you're okay with us talking about Ethan, of course.
Definitely.
Look, Ethan in himself. I mean, let's talk about this for a second, if you don't mind diving in. Ethan has been quite the. I mean, he was just surprised is an understatement. I mean, if you don't mind diving into some of that, I mean, you didn't even find out you were pregnant with Ethan until what, like
7 months. So
Right.
I found out I was pregnant in February. My first appointment, like my first ultrasound, was March 8th, where they told me that I was already like 30 odd like weeks in. And you know, me being dumb, who like never even paid attention to pregnancy, I was like, how far along is that? And my mom was like, you're giving birth in like a month and a half.
That is
And I was like, and
surprise.
then I had like March, which was like completely fine, you know, nothing like weird. April, I had my baby shower, and the next day I was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, in your life in general, and I'm only saying this, and like I said, I'm only saying this to speak to two testaments here. One, I mean, and of course, you know, I'm always going to bring like the power of God into like all of our situations. But a lot of kids your age, and I'm sorry, you're not a kid anymore. Now, full disclaimer to those.
This is going to show us you're old. You can keep calling them kids.
Well, here's the thing, and disclaimer to those of you who listen to the program who don't know us, which is probably like 98% of you, because I only have like 5 friends. So like my 5 friends listen to the program and they know that I've known them. But to the rest of you, I've known Domenic, and I've known his sister, who's making us proud over in Chicago in college as well,
Sure.
at Trinity. I've known Sierra and her brother, who wasn't able to be on the podcast today. But I've known these young adults since they were little children, like boogers falling down their face, all that kind of stuff. Like all the embarrassing stories. We won't say any of those here today, right? So I'm going to try not to call them kids. I'm going to try to call them by their names or young adults, because they are not kids. They are fully grown. I mean, they're professionals. Dominic's a grown man working in a profession. You know, Sierra's a mom with an awesome baby. But it's been awesome for me to see them grow up. And one of the reasons I wanted to have them on the podcast today is because as we talk about these generational differences, they have shown such like an awesome testament to what growing up in different, with different personalities, with different types of motivations, and let's be honest, they've killed it. I mean, I for one have been very proud of you guys. I mean, you guys have your own unique spin on how you want to do. You guys have your own ambitions and goals, but you guys are killing it. And so with Sierra, and we're gonna turn our attention to Domenic in just a second. Dominic's like looking at me like what? But with Sierra, I mean, Sierra, We've clearly seen the hand of God on your life for a long time. And now, granted, we have another episode coming up soon that we'll talk a little bit more about that because that's not quite the direction we're going in today. But I mean, Sarah's had different things that she's handled in her upbringing, some different hurdles, let's call them, that she's jumped. But now, finding out you're pregnant as late as you did, so basically, like literally, like, hey, surprise, I'm coming. Like, I mean, like you know. You have no time to really plan. Like, you don't have the full 9 months to set up like the nursery and all that. So basically, it's like, hey, I'm pregnant. Hey, the baby's coming really soon. Hey, I'm having a baby shower. Okay, now I'm going to the hospital for 2 weeks. Oh, here's Ethan.
Pretty much, yeah.
But here's the awesome part about that.
Pretty wild.
Right?
Oh, thinking about it, it's wild.
I didn't realize that it was all that fast. I feel like when it all happened, it was all like, we have like months until this is happening, and then it felt like months went by, and there was like, oh, she's in labor, this is right, and then it was like, wait a second, we only found out about this 2.5 months ago.
I think it felt a lot like, it might have felt like a lot longer for everyone else too, because obviously like the hospital is still in COVID mode, so like I wasn't allowed anybody except for like my one person, and that's it. So I was just like, people would ask me like, any updates? And I'd be like, I wish I could tell you. I literally don't have any.
Yeah, I feel like because everything was pretty much over text. So I feel like that like made it like it was like a day felt like a week. Like, oh, how's Sierra doing? Like, oh, she's still in the hospital. Like still, and it was 2 weeks for so long.
I remember being furious at nurses.
Oh, that was so.
It's like I don't even know if I should be furious at nurses, but like I should be
because
probably.
I was only like we were both, me and Justin were both only 19 at the time, so they like the nurses like it felt like they were just kind of taking advantage of us.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are young, you guys don't care. Like, obviously I care.
This is a child.
Well, but
someone's got to care.
Here's the thing. A few things stand out as we kind of experience this, because now like we have a very tight knit friends group. I mean, as like a friends group. I mean, you have a lot of people that really love you. I mean, clearly. And it was one of those things where what an experience it was to have like everybody kind of come together, to try to kind of navigate this craziness all in one shot. But here's the thing that I admire most. At your age, at the time, most people would pretty much fall apart. I mean, let's be honest. In terms of your generation, and again, I'm not trying to put like a blanket statement, but more so than that, okay, your generation doesn't handle pressure very well. And I know I'm going to get like a lot of flack from this. I'll probably get somebody bashing us on the Facebook, but I mean, generally speaking, like having all that thrown at you, and here's the other part that really impresses me too is, up until this point, you had already been on your trajectory. You already made your marching orders were in place. Your plan was enacted. You were in school. You were doing what you had to do. You were killing your courses. Then you find out this news, and it's like, okay, stayed in school, continued to kill your courses. Like, hey, I remember you telling me about you've already passed their classes, so one or two professors that may have given you a hard time. So clearly.
I had a professor that legitimately told me to drop out.
Just crazy.
Yeah, she was like,
professor.
well, when I had my kid, because she had her kid at 17, and she dropped out of high school trying to convince me that was the same thing. And I was like, well, you were 17. I'm 19.
And it should have been opposite. Like, oh, hey, I had a kid young too, but I eventually got over it, pushed through it.
I get what she was trying to say. She was
Yeah.
trying to say, like, take as much time as you can with your kid and everything, but, like, just straight up telling me to drop out, not the best move.
Yeah, it's a bad approach, but I think that the sentiment was there, where it's like, all right, well now you just have time where you can focus on raising your kid, and then when you're ready, you're more than capable enough to hop back in. But the approach was awful.
I think that's tough though. I think for everyone's generation, but for your generation, I think the world moves too fast for you to take too long of a break.
Yeah, but like also, if you look at like the statistics of people that drop out of college, barely any end up going back.
Right.
So like, if I did drop out, I'm very confident in saying I probably wouldn't have ended up going back.
Well, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. And to the professor who said that, you know who you are, and I know that we may be smart. Well, we won't do that. I don't want to be sued.
We will be liable.
I mean, we ain't got no money on this podcast yet, so we can't be sued. But you know who you are, okay?
I don't know what a podcast is.
And all that to say this, and let me go back to where I was trying to throw the spiritual part into this. Cece, you know, I'm really happy to have you on today because a lot of young people get dissuaded about what they can be used for and how they can be used and how powerful they really are. I love what it says in Timothy chapter 4 verse 12. It says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity." I mean, these days, people in, not even just your generation, I mean, let's be honest, even in my generation as old, I'm using air quotes as you guys think I am, the boomers and the boomers and the generation before us, which is your dad's generation, by the way, look at us as we're still youngins.
I'm old too. It's fine. You don't have to feel like that.
Well, I call him old too because I'm younger than him. So they look at us like we're the youngins, and everyone's looking for that role model, and you going through what you did, and of course continuing to rock it because now you're still slaying it. Is Slay still cool?
No.
You miss it by
I miss it all, guys. It's amazing what God can do with strong young people. I mean, it's just amazing what God can do. I mean, here's another one for you. And this is where we're going to transition to Domenic for a little bit. Samuel chapter 17, verse 42. "And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him." And I like the word disdained here. "For he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance." Because, Domenic, you're a handsome guy. So I mean, everyone knows. Well, everyone in our faith knows the story of David and Goliath. Hey, if you don't have faith in Jesus Christ, we're going to talk to you at the end of the program. But for those of you who have faith and grew up in the church, we all know the story of David and Goliath. And Goliath is out there challenging all of God's chosen people, and nobody wanted to fight him because he was a behemoth of a man. And this young handsome dude named David comes out and challenges him. And Goliath had a disdain towards him. And honestly, sometimes it's tough for your generation because a lot of us in the previous generations kind of look down at you guys and kind of give you a hard time, kind of like that teacher was doing to you a little bit, like kind of trying to stack the cards, like you can't handle this. And what's funny is even though sometimes the cards are stacked against you, you guys tend to continue to prove us wrong in many cases. Some of y'all are still kind of lazy. I'm just going to put it out there, right?
I think that's in every generation.
That's a thing.
But it was before you get to Dom completely.
Excuse me.
It was funny. Like you call them kids because I've known them a little less time, but they're still younger than me.
I've known you my whole life.
Yeah.
What's funny is I knew you as a kid too, so it's kind of like
But even they're very mature for their ages. Even like people might be like, "Oh, she has a kid, of course she's mature." But even like Sierra, if I want to have a good fun debate about something, I go to you because you had that maturity to have a nice cool debate. And Dom, I forget how old you are. It was funny. Even in Philly, we were hanging out. I was like, "Oh yeah, Dom's not even 21
we're not
yet."
the same age.
Not even 21, but you can hang out with people older than you because you have that kind of maturity, kind of that swagger. But yes, that's it. That's all the words I'm giving you guys.
You guys got some. You guys got some old souls. I mean, I got some footage from back in the day. I won't do that to Dom because he doesn't like it when I pull out the old. Well, I wasn't gonna say all of that. I was just saying from when he was a youngster and we did some OG video broadcasting years ago, just shy of COVID, and Dom was on there and he was doing his thing, representing. When we used to go down into the dining room and you had all of BCA cheering you on "Go down!"
No, I wasn't fat back then.
Well, I didn't think you were, but you.
No, I was. That was my senior year, wasn't it?
I think it was your senior year.
Yeah, it was right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
It was right after my first Philly trip of the year.
Then we got some. If you really want to go into the archives, we have some good old fashioned blackmail videos of you from when you were, and I'll use air quotes again, quote unquote, when Domenic considers himself fat.
That's when I was fat.
Domenic.
I got my timelines confused.
Domenic doesn't understand what being fat is. Fun fact:
some of us can't.
Josh made almost 400 pounds.
Yeah.
When you get to 397, bro, then you can talk to him about.
Just remember, whatever blackmail you have on us,
I mean,
we probably have something worse.
I'm sure you guys have money on board.
I'm pretty sure we have that.
I was
brain.
You were compact.
I was compact.
Yeah.
I remember Wally? Wally came up, put me in there, and squeezed me into a cube, and we're like, "That's you. That's you." You're straight.
So let's talk about Mr. Domenic for a minute here.
Sure.
So Dom, let's talk about Domenic. you took a different. So Dominic, you're a hustler, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you are. See, I think the reason you and I get along so well is because you're very much like me. We're not exactly thrilled about the studious type. I hated school with a passion. However, I was the first generation in my. I was the oldest in my house, so it was kind of one of those things. I had to do the school thing, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like myself in general, or what pertains to this thing? Because I can go all day about myself, but you want to know like how I got started in life, like why I made the decisions I made.
I'll let you use your judgment on this one.
Well, I'm Dom. I think when pertaining to college and school and things like that, it was really different for me because I grew up with two parents that didn't. Or my dad never went to college. He works a machinist. What I do now is a trade. It was a family thing. And my mom didn't go to college until way later in life. So growing up, I had in the back of my mind that I knew whether or not, things worked out or didn't work out with school, I knew that I was going to be fine because my dad was fine and he never went to college. And my mom was fine and she went to college way late. So I never felt like overwhelming pressure by my parents to do college. But by society, it's college all day, every day. It's college or bust, right? And I think nowadays we're starting to see more of like that's not the case because it's like you can work a great job and not have a degree. You can work your way up in a great job and then get your degree later for less money because you can go into a job with tuition reimbursement and stuff like that. But for me growing up, I didn't feel pressure from my parents to go to college, but society was always like college. And in high school, I started working at a job, and from there it was like, well, I'm just going to do this my whole life. I'm just going to work. I hated school. I saw an out from school. I go, I'm just going to work. I worked at the Clam Shack for 2 seasons, and then I was working 70 hours a week at Chick-fil-A for like 2.5 years until, I progressed into this trade that I'm in now. So it was always kind of like, school was never an option, really.
I think it's interesting too because like you see like the ebbs and flows of school, even like between like our both mine and Josh millennial generation, because like you're a little different because like you're the head of the first, you wanted to go to college, but I feel like your age group of millennials, like 4-year college, graduate degree if you can get your master's was like that was the minimum, like that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
For me, it was like 4 years is not for everyone. Go to CCRI, get 2 years in, and then take a break if you don't know what you want, or if you don't know what you want, just go to CCRI or take a break. Because I know a few people that are even close to me who got that. So, I'm gonna take I'm gonna do 2 years or a year at CCRI or at a break or whatever, and then I'm gonna take a break, and they never went back.
That was my original plan. Because like you said earlier, I got it for free. So I was like, I'm gonna do my 2. I'm gonna do all my gen eds. If I want to go back, I'll do my other 2 with a major focus, and then we'll go from there. I think I lasted 2 weeks.
I think that goes back to the motivation thing. Is like you're not paying up front, so like if you want to, like, I don't like this.
I had no loss.
Right, no reason to put yourself in stress because you're not paying for it.
And my motivation wasn't school. My motivation was
get the bag.
And that's what I did. I dropped out and I worked way too much at the job that I worked because that's where the money was. The money wasn't in school right away. So in my mind, it was like, why am I going to sacrifice this already good thing that I have to make less money and do something I don't want to do when I can just put all my eggs in the basket and make as much money as I
And I think you guys learn too because you see all the stories like, people go to 4-year college, you get out at $100,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Who wants to? Like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. That's why CCRI is a big thing too. Like, 2 years cheaper. Then I'll transfer over, maybe.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that was. Let's be honest. A lot of that was propaganda. Now, I think with it goes with the seasons of life too. Like, for instance, my plan in life, and I've shared this with you guys 1,000 times because you guys have known me forever and a day. But my plan in life was never to go to school. My plan was to finish high school, go into the Marine Corps, become a police officer, do all that stuff. Instead, met my wife, decided I wanted to plant some roots, get into college last minute to secure a future. But then when I got into college, it's not that I didn't enjoy what I went to college for. I mean, I did end up enjoying my degree programs. I mean, I got a pre-law degree, I got a psychology degree. Did I end up using those degrees? Kind of. I mean, I ended up turning into a business owner, so I guess I use psychology a lot with dealing with my clientele and stuff. I use psychology a lot as my role as a minister, like with the counseling and stuff like that. Fast forward a little bit, now I'm finishing, a doctorate degree in theology because, I love Scripture. I love being in God's Word. I love, ministering the gospel. So, so a different passion has come about, my desire to learn, Scripture in a deeper way. So I'm finishing a doctorate degree in theology, and I'm finishing a doctorate degree in psychology because, the counseling through, again, in my role in ministry, it comes in handy. So, I think the different seasons kind of change things here or there. Like you were saying, your mom... I remember when your mom and even Sierra's mom went back to school later on in life. The seasons had changed. Your mom has a passion. I don't know how she does it. She's a teacher. I mean, I deal with my kids, because they're mine. But like dealing with 30 other kids that don't belong to me, that's an underpaid job.
Yeah.
That's why I changed my major.
But she had a passion for what she was doing, and your mom's in school again, trying to further her master's degree. I mean, your mom went to school later on in life too, Sierra, to become a nurse. I mean, what happens is sometimes we have these times where we kind of take a break and then we find our passion and then we go back. But let's be real, that's not always the case, like you said, right? And statistically, a lot of times people take their gap year, because that's become a thing now, the gap year, where they try to go get some life experience. And statistically, a lot of times people take that gap year and it becomes like a gap decade, then a gap 2 decades. And then they're like, well, I'm 60 anyway, so why bother, Now, going back to the point that I made previous, now, what kills me is, there used to be a day where people would encourage young guys and girls to go to the Voc schools. Yeah. Because, let's be honest, the trades are dying. I mean, the trades are dying because back in the day, they started to really push kids into college. Oh, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. They started pushing them away from Voc schools. But let me tell you a secret. If you're good with your hands and you're not somebody that has a desire to go to college, it's okay to become an electrician. It's okay to become a plumber. Because I want to tell you something right now. These guys are graduating high school with degrees, with licenses to be electricians and plumbers and different tradespeople. And guess what they don't have? Student loans. Yeah. And they're getting paid almost $100K a year to do you get an electrician or a plumber into your house for about an hour. How much is it? $250.
Yes.
I mean, we're at Will's house for a specific reason. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It has to do with hiring a plumber.
He's making a lot of money. He might be making a lot more money before he's done.
And he's not worried about what Biden does now with forgiving student debt. You know why? He doesn't have a student loan. So, and I'm not saying not to go to college. What I'm saying is the path that you take has to be one that you're passionate about. And success isn't derived from a paper on your wall. It's about doing something that you love and being good at it. Now, Cece's going to be a lawyer because for those who don't know Cece, she's great at arguing. Yes. We're sorry, Justin. Just give up.
Josh and I started our friendship because I wouldn't stop arguing with him.
And look at that. It made us tight, thick as thieves, best of friends. But you know what? So it's all about being passionate about what you do. And I love the fact that now unfortunately, sometimes the passion is just not there. We see this happening today. Let's go into some statistics. I want to share some statistics, and we'll dive into our topical discussion. So I pulled up some statistics on Gen Z. That's your generation, guys. And you guys made a really good point in our pre-podcast discussion. And if you want to check out some of our pre-podcast discussion, check out our YouTube page. We have the behind-the-scenes videos that we put up every week after our show. You can see what we're rocking. I'm rocking my Snoopy, nope, not today shirt. I was trying to fit in with the Gen Zers. It's my indiscreet way of calling them lazy because we know that our generation's awesome.
The millennial generation is the best generation.
But no.
We'll get into that at the end. Oh, we can. We will. We shall.
But according to current statistics, Gen Z makes up 26% of the global population. That's according to IZU, which is our source. And I'll put this up on our page like we usually do. In the U.S., Gen Zers are expected to account for about 40% of consumers. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting. They make up 26% of the global population, but in our country, they make up 40% of consumers. You're going to see why in just a second. 55% of Gen Z population chooses eco-friendly and socially responsible brands.
Yay.
And you see how I'm like making eyes at the camera. You can't. You hear the pause. It's a dramatic pause on purpose, but I'm making eyes. Yeah, this is the generation that's really about like being green. They hate straws and they hate. What was the thing that we
Speak
had?
for yourself. I love straws.
I know,
Like,
but
there was like
Yeah,
the turtle
it's-
thing,
yeah,
the
it's-
straws, and
So what
I-
sucks about being in the generation that I'm in is that I'm encompassed with the snowflakes that also come from this
Oh, no.
generation. Anybody that was
then we got
born
it started.
after 2002. Because everybody has to have an opinion on everything now because of social media. Some people shouldn't have a platform to
absolutely.
That's
speak their opinions.
I mean, that goes for the boomer generation too.
They shouldn't have a platform either.
But the
But
millennials,
like,
they
the
should have a
opinions are all like the different ends of the spectrum. Like
Yeah.
the boomers are like get married by the age of 20 and like have
Hey,
kids
hey,
by the age of
listen,
20.
I got married at
Somehow-
21. I'm just
Wait a
saying.
minute.
Somehow
But
both
then, like-
opinions are fact.
But then like Gen Z is like, don't get married.
Gen Z is like, I can't afford to move out right now, so I'm not gonna get married
Well,
and
I
get a
mean,
house at 20.
it's
I mean, they are still couch surfing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying.
I mean, honestly, I would too.
My favorite is like,
$2,000 a month
my
for a
favorite is
one-bedroom
when I was
apartment.
your age, I owned a house. A cute, like eggs cost like $5. So
I know.
of course you bought a
I hate it
house.
so much.
But
Like,
it is true.
inflation
When
is
I was
insane.
your age, I did own a house and I had
And
kids.
eggs costed 99
Yeah, but
cents.
also like
Josh.
inflation's
Look
a
at the
thing.
look at the
and, like,
difference. The older millennial, married at 20, bought a house that around the same time. The younger millennial, I moved out 2 years ago. I was 26, 27, and I was fine with it. I was fine with it. I waited those extra 5 years, and that was good.
And listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying not to be like responsible for the planet, but like let's call it for what it is. I mean,
It's
you know,
stupid.
it's all
That's
about
what it
like,
is.
hey, let's go get hybrid cars. But then you see like what the mines what are the mines doing that they're
Yeah.
using to mine for the batteries for these hybrid cars?
People
Like
think
it's,
electric cars are saving the planet, but they're doing worse for the environment than what a diesel truck would do, which is a crazy statistic.
I mean, be practical. You want me to recycle? That's great. But then they put so many rules on the recycling. Like I was all happy. I was like, I'm putting the stuff in the recycling bin, and I'm being told like, well, you can't put that plastic thing in the recycling bin, but it's plastic. It's supposed to be in the recycling. Like, they will throw out that whole truck, not just your bin, the whole truck from the
And
recycling.
if they,
Well,
like-
what's the point of recycling?
If they see that there's something wrong, they'll just not pick up your recycling.
It's like,
now.
wait, I put the wrong plastic in the plastic recycling with the plastics? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
I don't like how they want us to spend money on these eco-friendly things, but they have to spend more money than the non-eco-friendly thing. I'm not gonna spend an extra $20 on a hydro flask just because it's good for the environment. I'm broke.
I do like a hydro flask
I
or a
have
hydro
too.
flask type of water bottle.
I do have a hydro
But
flask. That's safe though.
I'm not gonna go buy a metal straw and take it with me
I'm
everywhere I
honest.
go.
But that's
Just
gross.
because I'm terrified that I'm gonna get a
tried
paper
metal straws.
straw at Burger King.
I tried the metal straws, and that's just not because I wanted to save the planet. And as awful as it sounds, I didn't care. I
It's
just
because
wanted
they
to
were
try
a-
the metal
a
straw.
trend.
They were cool looking.
They were a
But
trend.
they're disgusting.
Listen, I know I'm gonna sound
they
like
get gross.
They're metallic.
I know I'm gonna sound like the old guy here, and like, and I'm not trying to, but two things. One,
You old guy.
I sincerely don't know what a hydro flask is.
It's a water bottle. It's a
It's a water
like
bottle.
So why can't we just call it a water bottle?
Because it's a brand.
The
it's
brand.
Like, yeah,
It's like a-
It's like calling a Yeti a Yeti.
Or it's like a Kleenex.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like tissue, but Kleenex like
Alright.
$200. The
Well,
hydro
Hydro
flask is
Flask was very much made
Yeah.
popular
Yeah.
by middle schoolers.
So-
teen women.
So
Teen
to,
women, yeah.
to Hydro Flask, if you happen to be listening to this podcast, we'd love to pick up your endorsement.
I would take a sponsorship.
And also, when it comes to straws, okay, here's where I stand. The point of a straw is that I can throw it away when I'm done with it. I don't want to have to wash my straw.
killing
That's
the
too much
bears.
work.
But
And
then that's where they come up with paper.
and then the paper straws,
They
if you leave it, you leave it in your, like,
Yeah.
it takes me like 5 hours to drink my coffee. So like,
Yeah.
by the time I'm
Paper
done, the
straw
straw's
coffee is
missing.
super
See,
ridiculous.
but then
It's ridiculous.
there's like Duncan who has like the blue straws.
I like the paper, like the hard, like thick paper straws. Pause. Because it's just like, they're not paper, but they're not plastic. They're a fun, happy medium where they don't disintegrate, but they are biodegradable.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing with Dunkin'. That their blue ones
Yeah,
are
the blue
they're
ones.
plastic, but they're biodegradable.
They're nice.
fine,
Plastic,
I'll
but
take
they
that.
won't kill the turtles.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, Gen
Like
Z.
the turtles die anyway.
Gen Z leads
And they
the
do
charge.
If the straws go up their nose.
They die
Can
anyway.
I tell you a secret? During the
150
industrial
years.
revolution, okay, for you and Sierra's my girl because she's a history nerd like I am.
I'm also
We cared
a
not.
history nerd.
Oh, actually, I think we're all history
We all
nerds.
love history.
Yeah.
During the industrial revolution, we cared nothing about the planet, and the turtles did just fine. All right. Now I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay.
But like, also there's like a
Steam
food
shit?
cycle and like, yeah, but people did worse than turtles back then.
The factories.
We're worse
Probably
off.
worse than
The
they are
asbestos
now.
that like
But they were,
everything's
yeah,
filled with?
humans were worse off
Wait,
than turtles back
Did you
then.
realize that the USA is like the only one with an EPA? So like, okay, so we're doing great for the environment in the USA, but
The
let's
greatest
go to like
generation.
every other country. Let's go to every other country where we're buying all our stuff from. Who doesn't care about the
The
turtles?
greatest generation is only the greatest generation because they outlived all those factories, honestly.
They didn't outlive them.
They all got cancer.
Oh, yeah, if you or a loved one have mesothelioma, that's all them. I don't have mesothelioma.
You know who the greatest generation is? The attorneys that have the commercials that say if you're a loved one have
I know.
mesothelioma,
Oh my
right?
I like the Camp Lejeune commercials that have been coming out.
I don't even know what that is.
Have you never seen those commercials?
Camp Lagoon?
That is such a Gen Z thing to say.
What?
alright?
I don't know what something is. What is a Camp Lejeune?
That's what the
It was
Marines
a
go to get
camp.
boot camp, man.
It
That's
was
the
a camp that got like, I think it got
it's
gas
boot camp.
or something?
It's
Ah,
boot
we-
camp.
But it got like
Camps getting gas is
so,
pretty big in
but and
history.
like they're linking Camp Lejeune with cancer. So,
If there was gas, then of course
so
there's
they're
cancer.
saying that if you were at Camp Lejeune, you can be like
Compensated.
recompensated because you have cancer from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just everything. Anything from 30 years ago you get cancer from.
Yeah. Oh,
Am
yeah,
I
pretty much.
wrong? Like,
Pretty much, yeah.
you couldn't even live in a house 30 years ago without getting cancer.
Got the lead, you got the
Well,
asbestos, you got
technically
the uranium.
lead was pre 1978. So
But there were a lot of houses still.
That's true. If
that's the
if
thing.
the walls were
'Cause it
painted
was-
with lead paint, they didn't go and strip the walls in every house.
No.
well, in Rhode Island, we don't have to be lead safe. We just have to paint over the lead. So as long as it's encapsulated, so like,
Yeah.
so your kid can literally peel the paint down a few layers and still chew on it. As long, and apparently that's all right.
Until there's a hole in the wall and then it all just seeps.
All the way down to the horsehair plaster from
Yeah.
the 1920s. All right, let's see. Let's get some more Gen Z numbers here that will set probably some other tangents going. According to Dell, and this does not surprise me, a whopping 91% of Gen Z population say technology will be a decisive factor for choosing a job. So apparently, if it requires you to use pen and paper, you guys don't want the job. You guys want a job with technology.
That's more than understandable.
I mean, I kind of get that
I
too.
love
I hate-
pen.
We're just,
I hate
we're,
that.
we're like, that's
You're
like the
different,
way.
remember, you're a nerd.
Okay.
Pen and paper's great for like learning stuff.
I tried taking notes on my iPad for class, and it was genuinely, I think, one of the worst ways I've ever attempted to take notes.
School and work, like, it is different though, because as a society, we're moving towards a very digital.
I mean, yeah,
State.
files are all like files on
Yeah,
the computer.
and how much
and-
easier is navigating a Google Drive than to go through a filing cabinet of figs
I
looking for
A
can't-
lot
you
easier.
not.
I do have to do a little bit of both on my job. I'd rather look through files on a computer than files.
Yeah.
in
Well, no, it's
Absolutely.
crazy. They actually use an app to pick a jury now.
Apparently, there's an app for that.
I haven't had jury duty yet, so
I haven't either.
my buddy's had it 3 times.
That's so unlucky.
He's 20. He's 20 years
See,
old.
I
He's
think
had
that's
it 3 times.
privileged.
$5 a day, man. You get paid $5.
Oh,
I
it's
think it's.
15.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't had jury duty in a
No,
while.
I think no. Now, I think you only just get reimbursed for parking, and that's it.
I thought it.
They don't even pay for your lunch,
I thought it
or at least that's in Mass. They don't pay for your lunch.
was. I think Rhode Island is different.
Maybe.
I think
'cause my
we
buddy
make
lives
15 in
Seacon.
Rhode Island.
So yeah, he makes no money, and they reimburse him for parking because he's got to pay for parking in front, and then you can go get lunch, but we're not going to give you any money for lunch.
This next one really infuriates me, and it makes so much sense. This makes me nauseous. According to Forbes and Y Pulse,
I hate Forbes.
These are such random.
and Y Pulse, 97% of all Generation Z individuals learn about new products from social media. So y'all get your news and everything from social media.
But like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a way around it though. Like, I don't get all my news from social media per se. I listen to a lot of podcasting.
I only watch the news if my dad has it on.
Yeah.
I think,
but like-
because the point is, you guys would pay to have no ads rather than watch a commercial on TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
That's
this is
true.
not.
I would not.
This is.
I don't mind watching commercials. If I don't have to pay for ad-free something, I'm gonna watch a
Like
commercial.
Hulu Live, I'm getting
gonna watch
Hulu
I'm
no ads.
I'm gonna watch it.
I pay extra money for Paramount Plus no ads because I want ads, and guess what?
So yeah,
You still get
it's
ads.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't
But
it like one 180-second long ad in the beginning?
At the beginning, yeah, it's nuts. But like, I 100% agree with the stat because it. But I also I don't think it's right, but I agree with the number because I've been saying for 3 years. Kayla, my sister, who's in college, doing whatever,
Shout out, girl.
Just doing whatever.
gets
Learning.
97% of her information from TikTok, and 67 of it, I'd say, pulling a number out of my whatever, is false information.
I don't think there's a problem with getting your news from social media as long as you don't stop there. Like,
I get my news from
if
Twitter.
you
That's the problem.
if you
I
genuinely
get a lot of
if you like find something on Facebook, like, I tried to think of a celebrity that everyone would be mad if I said that they died, like, but I can't think of anyone. But like this person,
I'm still mourning the loss.
Selena Gomez.
like,
still mourning the loss of
Selena
Betty
Gomez
White.
died.
She can die.
Recent.
Wow.
I don't like, but like,
I care so
That was
much.
harsh.
yeah,
But,
but
like,
like this is like some people care
That was
so
such a
much.
Gen Z thing to
Well,
say.
it's crazy because some people care so much about people that will never even
But
come
my
in
point
contact.
is,
That
if you find that thing, don't just like grab
Sorry,
it off of
Selena.
Facebook and be like, oh yeah,
We
this is fact.
apologize.
Selena Gomez is dead. R.I.P. Love you forever. Like, no,
Yeah.
research it and make sure it's real
It's
first.
funny because like they'll look at that, they'll repost it, they'll DM someone, they'll send it in the group chat.
And then they
And then,
gotta
you know,
take it all
and they
down.
gotta
and
take
they
Selena
it
gotta
all
walk
Gomez
back.
on like Instagram the next day. Why does everyone saying I'm dead?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Kobe died, I went everywhere. I
Yeah.
looked everywhere because I was
Just
praying
don't
that
believe
it was
like,
false.
Nah, it's fake.
That wasn't
But,
even Betty
like-
White died.
Yeah, I mean, Betty White was a
Like,
big
if you see Betty White is, or the Queen, saw the Queen die,
But like those make sense.
Yeah, but I'm still mourning the loss of Betty. I mean, that was
it was over a year.
But like those make sense.
still.
Yeah. It's funny, like Kobe was
She
playing.
went too soon. She
During
went too
90,
soon.
She didn't. She went too late.
No, but
She was probably hurting.
but the T-shirts and everything were already made,
Like
man.
at some point, it's like.
She was so close to her birthday.
I mean, I don't.
Very
that's the thing that sucks.
I mean, it would have been awesome to just
Very
celebrate that one birthday.
That's the part that sucks about it. But like, she was ready to go.
yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for all the
But I
newspapers.
think-
They all had like the articles already, but
I
like
think the
like
fact that like everyone had this like, oh, Betty White's never gonna die thing, that's what made it so much more surprising. And
she was still acting.
Yeah.
Now you want to talk about work ethic? Gen Z, Betty White didn't
And,
give
like,
it up, man.
it's what made
Work
it more
ethic,
like I need to
what's his name?
research this.
Old guy. He's in so many.
Morgan
movies.
Freeman?
No, he's like
Morgan
83.
Freeman
Action
is a
star.
man.
He's a cowboy guy.
I'm not gonna lie, Morgan
Clint
Freeman
Eastwood?
is on
Yes,
Oh, Clint
that's a
Eastwood.
work ethic because he's still doing action movies at 90 years old.
Listen to
And
all you media outlets, okay, all you magazines.
Be Clint
Upon Clint Eastwood's elderly ages, do not preprint any of his stories like Betty White,
No.
because you will set him up for failure.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
because we're not ready to lose him. It's too
I
soon.
don't even
I know, we're 3 movies away from Clint Eastwood dying.
He's a good
I
actor.
don't
He
know
did some good
faces,
movies.
but if you told me like he was this character in this movie, I'd know. who
Have
it
you
is.
seen Gran Torino?
No.
It's
If you didn't, you should. You gotta watch it.
No, I don't.
Joe, your daughter needs to be educated on Clint
He's
Eastwood.
old
Okay?
in Gran Torino too, and that's still an absolute heater movie.
All right, let's see. You guys do have some good ideas though. 58% of Gen Zers would want to have good work-life balance. What is that? I keep being told of this work-life
It's-
balance thing.
I think that's such a stupid statistic.
Good work-life balance.
100%
Like
of
your
people
boss
should have
asks,
work-life
like
balance.
your boss
Yeah.
asks you to stay an hour late. If it's bad for your mental health, say no and go home.
I mean, work-life balance is just for anyone.
It's
who
not
works.
letting work take
9 to
over
5.
your entire life.
I would like for you to read that again, please.
58% of Gen Zers would want to have a good work-life balance.
100% of people should want
Yeah, I
work-life
don't know why
balance.
anyone would want their,
Well, some people
their
think- I
job
feel
to
like
take
if-
over their entire
I
life.
feel like if the people think if I work more, I'll make more money. They don't care.
I'm one that worked a lot back then. I still work a decent amount. I want the bag. I want to not die.
See, he wants the bag, but he also was able to take a week off and go to weekend off and go to Philly.
I too want the bag, but I want my bag to be like a Louis Vuitton or like a
See,
Gucci.
this is like
But you need to realize where work stops and life starts.
These types of people like never have a job where they have to be on call. Like they
See,
want to
like
leave
all of
work
my
at
jobs
work.
have been on call.
They want to leave work at work 5 p.m. done.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
But like people who, especially like business owners and people who work salary, don't get that luxury because they're always on.
Salary's a tough one.
Salary's tough. You're
That's
always
why
on.
I would really love to avoid working salary because
Well,
no matter what, you're getting the pay.
If you gotta
the
work
same
till
amount.
9 p.m. to get that project done, you're
Yeah.
on salary. You gotta do.
You're working 60 hours, you're not getting paid 20 hours.
But to be fair, your generation is also big on the gig economy. I mean, let's be honest. Like the last few people that I've been hiring, they don't even want to be on W-2. They want to be 1099 gig economy workers. They want for like my tech company, they want to come in and they want to be like paid by the job. So like if they have to go do like trouble ticket work, they want to get paid for that day's work. So. I mean, I understand it. So maybe that's the work-life balance because they take work when they want to take work, or I hire them by the project. So like we have people that like write programming and stuff like that, or do coding and whatnot. Like they get hired by us by the job. Like so, I'll tell them like, oh, here's the project, and they work that project. And at the end of that project, they're like, you want to take on another project? And they're like, yes or no. So I mean, perhaps that's why you guys are so big on this whole gig economy thing. I'm still trying to figure out this whole gig
I can see
economy.
that because like Uber and Instacart. And
Those
things
are
like that
very
huge.
work whenever you want.
Yeah, it's like, oh, do I want to
Yeah.
work 12 hours today so I can take the next 3 days off? They can do that. Or it's like, oh, all right, I'm gonna take a few this weekend. They can do that. So it's kind of I can see why that's becoming more of a thing. I mean, but that's a hustle too, though, because if you don't work, you don't get the bag.
I guess Uber, it's a hustle in its own right, but it's no. You're driving around. People love that.
It's not hard work. I'm not saying it's super hard, but you gotta put in the hours.
It is. Yeah, it's just a different hustle.
Man, to be the guy that thought about Uber, or even more so to be the guy that thought about putting random scooters all over the streets of Providence.
That was a good and a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, they get me so mad when they're in front of my downtown office because, like, when you don't pay for them, they get locked up after a few steps. So, like, when someone leaves it, like, right in front of my door, I have to, like, literally pick them up, and I get so infuriated. But then I'm, like, so, like, impressed by the genius that is, like, you have to swipe a credit card to move that thing.
No, yeah, they're smart.
Until they find the ones in the Providence River, and they have to replace those. There's so many on in the Providence River. It's
You know what's crazy? I threw one of those scooters
You're part of the
into
problem.
the Providence
You're part of the
River.
problem.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot that this is not my podcast.
Even on your podcast, friend, you should be allegedly.
No,
talking
it's a
to these-
statute of limitations, This was in COVID. Nothing existed during
Yeah,
COVID.
we don't talk about COVID.
Nothing existed during COVID.
I was in a mask. They don't know what I am. Until today.
Yeah.
50. I find that this statistic's a little askew because I feel like more people have done this. Like, not even just in your generation, but 53% of Generation Zers bought something through a mobile device in the last 6 months. I like to think that's more like 100% because even I buy my stuff all on my mobile phone. Like I don't even pull out my laptop for Amazon anymore.
I know, like, Amazon's a thing.
Like,
It's all
I'm
there,
so
you get apps
bad
for
with
things.
online shopping. The minute I get some extra money that I can spend, I am buying something, and it's so bad.
The only thing I don't
It's
really do
just
too
too
much
convenient.
is for clothes. Sometimes the clothes online, like different shops, are iffy. Like an extra large in one online store is not an extra large in a different.
Yeah, it's tough. You kind of got to know your spots. You
Yeah.
know, stick to your spots. I'm a large here, I'm a medium here, I'm an extra large here. Especially like for somebody like you or sometimes me who's buying clothes overseas. It's all totally different sizing. So that part's really all about knowing who you are in like certain places. But it's still like nothing beats going to a store and then buying something because you have it right away. Like in terms of like anything really. But the convenience of not having to leave your house, it's just all right on your phone.
Well, but I also
not?
think that that's part of the issue with like especially since like the COVID era where people became like agoraphobic and whatnot. Like
Yeah,
because what happens now is like people got so afraid of leaving their house. Like now you have like Instacart and like you have the Prime and like I get it, it's a convenience, which is great. And trust me, nobody likes conveniences more than I do. But I do too miss the days sometimes, like especially now, you can't buy into a store and buy anything. Like literally, it's like you want to buy something, it's like shipped to you, or like you go into a store and like that's a special order, so like the days of walking in and getting what you want are pretty much behind us. And also I'm glad to see like this trend of people moving back to supporting like the local businesses, because like
Small business is good.
yeah, because it's been choking out, especially like the conglomerates like Amazon, and like even Walmart has its own like online Amazon-esque platform. They started to choke. I mean, it's hard for small businesses to compete with like their price points, and so I'm glad to see like this big movement lately taking place. And honestly, and I will give credit where credit is due. A lot of that has been spearheaded by your generation and the latter part of ours, where there's an appreciation for small business and for like the local guy. Even a lot of like these little spin-up shops that keep showing up, like the little coffee shops now people are supporting versus like the big guys, or the little sandwich shops versus the big guys, like all these little corner restaurants and all that. So I mean, the point of the broadcast is not to dog Gen Z, but it's to kind of get an understanding.
I'll dog Gen Z every day.
But like a lot of our listeners vary in age, and they vary in generation, and it's funny because like one of the things that we try to do from week to week is we try to bridge gaps, right? We try to understand, especially when it comes to the church. I mean, because let's be honest, like I think a lot of the problem that we have as a church is that the older generations in the church don't really understand like the younger generation in the church, and vice versa. Like, because they look at the great generation or whatever looks at the Gen Zers, and they're like, they look at it almost like they don't understand a way where it comes across to them like they're just disrespectful. Yeah. And then the Gen Zers kind of look at like the older generations, and it's kind of like they're just overly religious and overly judgmental,
Mm-hmm.
So like part of it is like maybe exposing the differences that take place in the sense that why is Gen Z and what has society come to in the sense that makes Gen Z the way they are. I mean, we've seen a shift in the way technology has pretty much taken over everything. We've seen a shift in how even we buy things. I walked into a place not too long ago, and I tried offering somebody cash to buy something, and they legitimately told me no. They were like, you need to use a credit card, and they're like, and if you have touchless, it's even better. And I'm like, what?
We live in a very cashless society right now.
Right. So I mean, what are some things that you see can be considered like the generational divide?
I mean, it's kind of weird to say divide, because I know the things that I despise about my generation, but I don't know if it's something that divides us. But like, also a lot of the things I don't like of my generation are because of the younger side of your generation, where it's like,
hey, I resent that, man.
The younger side of your generation raised my generation,
and you're a good young man. You're welcome.
I like my part of my generation, where me and Sierra
Well,
and
think
people
what
like
we were
us.
talking about in the bloopers of this, where we were talking about how we said, what did we say, like 2000, like 2004.
Oh yeah, I said like anything 2004 and beyond. I don't want anything to do with.
Domenic and I aren't a part of Gen Z that like ate Tide Pods or other stupid things that they did, like
There were a few.
the salt ice challenge, where they just like burnt
That was,
themselves
like,
with ice. Like we weren't a part of
That
that.
actually came back, because when I was younger, that was
a thing.
Like
Yeah.
we are like
It
yes,
was a
age-wise, a
torture
part of
mechanism.
that generation of people, but like we're old enough to say, hey, you're acting like an idiot. Maybe don't do that. But we're also young enough to like still be able to act our age.
And then there's that whole aspect of now we can't have definite winners or losers, or
Which is
whatever.
Everyone
Which
gets
is
a
what
trophy.
which is what I hate, and that's one of those things where I say that's due to the younger side of your generation, because the younger side of your generation raised us. So
Right, that's where the entitlements all started coming.
yeah, now everybody thinks that they can do whatever they want, they get whatever they want, whatever, because they never had to compete for anything in their life. And we had talked about pressure earlier. I don't even know if it was on recording or if it was beforehand, whatever. But we talked about pressure and the ability to overcome pressure or whatever. We can't overcome pressure anymore because we never had to experience pressure.
Well, we never learned how to compete. You never learned how to compete.
I grew up playing sports. I grew up competing in every single facet of my life, whether it was sports or video games or school or anything. Anything that I do is a competition. So I know pressure because I know what it's like to be down and need to work my way back up to something. I know what it's like to be at my lowest and have the pressure pushing me to get back to my highest. Nobody from that whole 2004 on, 2006 on, whatever, knows what that's like because they were handed everything. They didn't have to compete for anything. There was no true competition.
And that's what I was
Everybody
saying
got a trophy.
before. Like, you can kind of like draw lines where like even within a generation things change.
Yeah.
For millennials, like your age, Josh's age group was like competition dog eat dog world. Then mine was like it was competition, but towards the end of like you said, towards the end of like me playing sports, it was like, well, everyone gets a participation trophy. Everyone, because everyone tried their hardest, and like I was looking at that, I was like, that's weird. Like, no, they lost. They don't share their trophy. Like it's first, second, third, and then the rest are losers.
You don't get points for trying.
No, and that was the thing
I
that
gotta get a degree for trying college.
I wish. Oh, I wish.
No.
God, I wish.
You have to work to get a degree. You work to get a trophy.
Listen,
Even if
when
it's
I-
something as minuscule as Little League baseball.
When I was a kid, that wasn't a thing. I mean, when I was a kid, it was like, and here's the sad part. When I was a kid, I played soccer, and my dad was my coach. And my dad used to bench me all the time because I stunk. I was like one of the worst players on the team. And I would only come
Joey
in.
was my baseball coach. He was so mean to me.
Yeah, my dad was like, I was like, Dad, can I play? No, I would only be able to play like when we were ahead by like a lot. But if we were losing, I knew I was going to sit out the whole game. I was like, and even, that was my dad. Like I used to coach. So I was a better coach than I was a player. So like it was one of those things where I used to coach Rachel's team, and we used to coach competitive, and we were undefeated. And so in the competitive league, it was still one of those things. Now at this point, it had started to become one of those ideas of like everybody plays, and those moms used to come up to me and be like, if my kid stinks, keep him on the bench. We want to win more than we want our kid to play. And it was funny because like I get called from the league, and they'd be like, you know, Mr. Burr, everyone has to have a chance to play. So so what we would do is I'd have all my strong players start, and like once we got to like a complete blowout stage of the game, I'd put all the other kids in so they can have fun, and then I'd put my strong players back. But you're right, a lot of it has to do with not knowing how to compete. I mean, that competitive edge, and maybe that's why a lot of the entitlement has started to settle in. Like everyone gets a participation trophy, everyone gets a ribbon, everybody gets a part in the play. Even if you can't act,
Yeah. I think that's another piece to motivation. How do you feel any type of motivation or drive to better yourself when you don't know when you're bad at something?
Yeah, how do you know how to win if you don't know how to lose?
I know I suck at certain sports, and because I wouldn't get playing time or I wouldn't whatever, I would actively work at my hardest to get to a point where I wanted to be at because I knew that I'd sucked because I wasn't getting playing time or I wasn't getting whatever. But people don't know they suck anymore. You need to know that you suck to better yourself.
Well, because that's when you would push yourself. So by knowing that you weren't good at something, that's when you would have that drive to practice harder and to put that extra time in. I mean, but at the same time, and for those of you listening who are from the older generations, this is not a new thing. Now, granted, it's new that the participation trophies and all that kind of take place, but I feel like in every generation, when we get to a certain age, it's one of those things where we're trying to find our place, right? Like every generation is trying to make their mark. They're trying to kind of do something different or kind of stick it to the generation before them in the sense of we can do it better, we can do it smarter, we can do it more efficient. It comes to a point where we're trying to figure out where we fit in, and I just and a lot of that has to do, I think, at times with our inexperience. Now, granted, we're trying to figure it out, and as we get older, look, I'll tell you something right now. If anybody was, and my dad listens to every episode, so I already know I'm going to hear about this after I say it, and after he hears it. But if anybody was a know-it-all through his teenage years, it was this guy. When I started my first business, I knew everything to the point where I was humbled very quickly when I started losing crazy amounts of money, and I had to go through the school of hard knocks, to learn how to make it back. But one of the things that really, I held on to when I was growing up, and that I had to learn the hard way, is that doing things on my own strength and trying to figure it out on my own had made it difficult. Now, you guys grew up in church, and Will's been in church for quite a while. And granted, like I said, in another episode, we're going to talk about your specialized journeys in the church. But did you ever find that you had an advantage in having, like the support that comes in your faith?
The deep question.
I know, I kind of blindsided them with this one. Like a deer in the headlights look for a second.
Personally, not really. Like, when I think about, and I don't know, because, like, not to spoil my faith journey or anything, but, like, during that little time of me, like, saying, hey, this isn't for me, like, I didn't really feel a difference in the support in my life. Like, maybe the stability of my life, but, like, the support itself, I don't know. Like,
so wouldn't you say, couldn't the argument be made that the support that you had in your life was because of the faith that you were part of? So for instance, your parents were still in the faith, all of your support system was still in the faith, we were all praying for you, we were all kind of, so like wasn't your entire support system kind of like faith-based?
I mean, I guess, but maybe the reason it doesn't feel like that is because I didn't lose anyone. Like, everyone's still, like, no one said, oh, well, you're not, like, in the faith anymore. And I'm like,
Not talk to you anymore.
not talk to you. I'm not gonna, like, damn you away from me. Like, I'm still gonna support and love you. So maybe that's why it doesn't feel like that way for me, just because I didn't really lose anyone. Like, I didn't lose any of my support.
So the Bible says in Jeremiah 1:4-9, the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Ah, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am only a child. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am only a child. You must go to everyone I send you to. Say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Then he reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, now I have put my words in your mouth. That's not what I wanted to say. I broke my streak. That's not what I wanted to say at all.
What happened?
I had the wrong screen up.
Do we just cut it? What
Yeah,
happens?
that's okay. I'll just cut it.
Wow.
The first cut.
Cut.
All right, 1 hour and 14 minutes. Jeremiah is where I wanted to go. So, in Jeremiah, there's a letter that's written to the exiles in Jeremiah chapter 29. And Jeremiah wrote a letter from Jerusalem to the elders, priests, and prophets, and all the people who had been exiled to Babylon by the king Nebuchadnezzar. And I love what it says here in verse 10. This is what the Lord says. You'll be in Babylon for 7 years. Here's some back pretext to it. But then I will come and do for you all the good things I have promised, and I will bring you home again. Listen to what it says here in verse 11. And this is kind of a verse of encouragement that we use a lot when we're talking to people in our faith. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. In those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you, says the Lord. I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. I will gather you out of the nations where I sent you, and I will bring you home again to your own land. Here's the point that I'm making, because since then, and since the point that you were just making, you've reconnected in a way with God that's just been unbelievable. I mean, especially seeing everything that's happened with your son, and how God's kind of had His hand upon your pregnancy, and with like everything that He's been doing with Ethan and all that stuff. Based on the scripture that I just read, you grew up in church. Your parents dedicated you as a child. They raised you in the ways of God. You had a relationship with God growing up. You went through all of these different twists and turns, and then you had a little bit of a falling out where you were trying to figure stuff out. It could be named like an identity crisis, where we're trying to figure out what our next steps are. But meanwhile, I think it speaks to the testament of God's love, and like the love that people had for you, because you're just so lovable. You never really lost anyone, in your own words, right? Like everyone kind of, like, so we loved you so much. All your friends, all your family were there, just like really loving and praying on you. And in the background, all of us were just praying hard for you and for everything that was going on with you, no matter what it was, whether it was school, because we prayed for, and we still to this day pray for everything. We pray for your schooling, we pray for your kid, we pray for your, fill in the blank. The other day we were praying for your car,
Oh, Daniel.
And so, and now here you are, right? Here you are. You're killing it still in everything that you're doing. I mean, granted, I'm not saying that it's a cakewalk. Your relationship with God has been coming back into a different level now. You're still, not saying that you figured it all out, but you're still kind of working things out. God had a plan for you. You may have taken a left turn, but you made it back. So isn't that the very definition of your faith still being in action, even though you weren't sure where your faith was?
I guess so. When you put it like that.
No, and here's the only reason why I say that.
It's a toughie. It's a tough question. It's like, what does that mean?
Well, what I'm trying to get at is this. There's a lot of people in your generation that are going through struggles, and they're going through times where they're trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, see, you guys are fortunate because you guys have a support system that loves you. We love you guys. I mean, you guys know how we roll. I mean, you have a team of people, Will and myself included, that we'll go to bat for you any day, anytime. You could literally pick up the phone, tell us that you're apparently 7 months pregnant, and we will move heaven and earth to make sure that when that baby's ready to come, everything's set to rock and roll, right? And and that's to the point where they lock our girl hostage in the hospital for a few weeks, couple weeks. That's a story for another podcast, but I mean, literally, trying to lock her up, and we kind of like have to hold like signs at the window from the parking lot because they won't let no one see her. Like,
Free my girl Sierra.
free Sierra, And so, I mean, no, but unfortunately, like, it's one of those things where we love you guys so much, and you guys have such a support, and even just in your families. I mean, we're talking about like extended family, friends, and stuff like that, like us that aren't blood related, and Ethan has his Portuguese uncle Josh, Tio Josh. That loves to spoil him rotten too, but he also has his family who does the same. So I mean, you guys have a support system. Domenic and Kayla the same, like none other. And regardless, you guys kill it. But I'm sure there's still struggles that you in this current day, in this current time, in this current generation face on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure there's still things that you guys have to deal with, even with the support that you have. I mean, Domenic, you have a wonderful family. You have an awesome girl on your side who like really keeps you in line. And let's be honest. I mean,
She does
We
indeed
love
keep me in
Carol.
mind.
we do love Carol. And Carol, if you're listening, I'll tell you again, you are way too good for him. I don't know what. I'm just playing, Dom. You're a catch, man.
I know my catch.
You're a catch. But you have some awesome people in your corner. Sierra has some awesome people in it. I'm blessed that I have awesome people in my corner, and I think Will's blessed that I'm in his corner. I'm just
I got some cool people in my corner. I'm fine in my corner.
So-
Look at me in this corner.
the point that I'm making in this long-winded way is that we are blessed to have the family that we have, and even the church that we have, whether we like the church being in our corner or not at times. What about the people that are in your generation, or the kids that are in your generation that don't? Like,
Don't have a support system?
that don't have what you have, whether it be the faith or the support system, or what do they fall onto?
Well, as it stands, as of right now, they fall into the life of the street.
I love how he says that.
I think it is tough because every time you're like, this is like a generation directly before you and directly after you. The generation that's older than you is always gonna look down on you like whatever you do is crazy. Like you're silly, they're lazy. Like every generation talks junk about the younger generation. And if the generation below you, you can't go to them for advice because they're younger than you. Why would you go to someone younger than you for
They
advice?
don't know nothing.
So it's like sometimes like the blind leading the blind. It's like if I'm a millennial and I'm I need help. I might go to another millennial who also needs help. It's like how do we help each other? We both don't
I
have the
find
answers.
that's where like maturity really plays a part in it, because like you and Domenic get along so well because Domenic is pretty mature for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, but like
Like,
Will's not
and-
gonna
It's
come
because
to
I
me for
helped
hard
reason.
advice.
Yeah.
I might. I mean, sometimes.
Nah,
But you guys can.
crazy stuff.
But like, do you feel like as a millennial, Will often judges you?
Will doesn't judge me, no. But there are people in his age range for sure. But Will
Yeah.
But
I
one.
think the
will-
more
will not.
maturity someone of a younger generation shows, the more likely the older generation is to
Well,
respect.
I think I
That's
see
a
what
good point.
I see what you're saying, but I think more than maturity, that's an act of humility.
Yeah.
Because what happens is it's being humble enough to be able to both give and receive of that. So So Peter 5:5-9 says, "Clothe yourself, all of you, with humility towards one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that in the proper time He may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world." What that's saying is basically like, you don't need to be proud, just be humble. Like humble yourself, because in the moment where you need to be like lifted up, like God will put you in that place where you're lifted. Like, kind of like when Joseph was like at his low, and it was time for Joseph to be exalted and like put in a position of power, God put him in that position. That same principle, though, believe it or not, it can be used in the world. Like, you don't need to pump yourself up, because it actually means a lot more when it comes from other people. Like if you self promote, it's never as valuable as when someone pumps you up. So like if Domenic comes out and is like, "Hey, check me out, I'm great at this." It's like, oh, people are like, "Oh, that's cool." But like if I come and be like, "Dude, did you see Domenic rocks at this?" Doesn't that carry so much more weight? So there's a thing about humility that and the Bible is so wise when it talks about stuff like this, because humility is one of those things where it's multi-generational. If the older generations are humble in the way they listen to the younger generations, and vice versa, don't you think we'd have a lot more productivity between the generational divide? You know what I'm saying? Like, even just being able to understand each other.
Yeah, I think actually I would say understanding, I think, is also another big one. Being humble and understanding are two big ones, because like we were talking about, like the older generation, they like look down, even on my generation, it's like, "Oh, well, I was married with 3 kids and had a house and a second vacation home by 20 years old," and they're like, "Oh, I don't understand how these 20-year-olds now don't have this." And then I can look at Dom and be like, I understand why he's 20 and living at home, because when I was 20, I wasn't doing the same struggle. I wasn't moving out at 20 years old, not because of this is how life goes. So I had an understanding. It was like, oh, I know why, Dom's doing this, or I know why Sierra's doing this, because even though I'm, how am I, 8, 9 years older than you guys, I was still at 20. I'm not moving out. I'm not having kids. I can see why it's smart for you to stay at home, stack your money, and then when it's right for you to follow whatever you need to, because I was in that same mindset. But then the generation before me is like, oh, I don't understand why they're not doing this, because I did X, Y, and Z at this age.
Well, I think it's about breaking molds too. I mean, a lot of us, that was just the way it was. I mean, even in my family, between the 3 of us, we all had different expectations. I'm not going to put it like that. I mean, my parents were never really forceful, but they highly encouraged us to do things. So my wedding I was the first to get married, so my wedding was supposed to be done in a certain way. And Sarah was second, so hers was a little bit more lenient. Then Rachel was like, "Whatever, man. You could have a small wedding, a little party." And I was like, "Wait a second, what happened here?"
It was so good.
I feel like with the older generations, they like to look at the generations like they're just doing the things that they want, instead of we're doing the things that we know we need to be stable in the future.
Yeah. There's always gonna be that aspect of
one
being
of the
looked
things
down on.
they don't want to move out, but I'm staying home because I need to save money. It's not because I would love to move out. Nothing against my parents. I love my parents. I love that they're letting me live in their house for free. But
I don't think
I
it's
would
a matter.
love to have my own house.
I don't think it's a
feel
matter
that's
of
my dream.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of having something against your parents. I think there's also that desire for independence.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think your parents would fault you for wanting to experience that, especially now you have a kid too. So it's one of those things where you want to be able to have your space and kind of every young person wants that. Heck, I wanted that until I started getting my first utility bills, and I learned very quickly.
I think the older people are well, they don't want to do this, while our generations are more well, I need to do this in order to
But
stay
I think
sane
that's
at
where
this
the
point.
understanding comes from, because they don't understand why you just don't move out. But
Yeah.
you know, again, you're a little, you know, you're more mature than, you know, the average. So you know, like, hey, I could move out because I'm at the age to move out. But if I move out, I'm not gonna get the stability I need, the extra income I need for, you know, your child. I'm gonna be working just to, you know, pay bills, so I'm gonna stay home. Like that's, you know,
Yeah.
smart, because there's people who can, you know, turn 18 and they, you know, have a part-time job, but they're, you know, trying to get 4 friends together to get, you know, a 2-bedroom apartment and then sleep on a couch because they want that independent. That's not necessarily the smart thing to do. They're not using wisdom, they're not using maturity. They're just, because they can, they're just doing something.
Like I remember when I was a little kid, and me and my friends would be like, when we grow up, we're gonna have like such like cute little apartment.
Yeah, everyone's
and I'm
gonna
like,
get a house
Yeah,
together.
no, that's
Everyone's
not
gonna,
happen.
we're gonna buy a 7-bedroom house and everyone's gonna pitch in.
Yeah, that's obviously not how life works.
It's
and you
before we learn
that
the value
very
of
quickly.
money. We don't know what money actually is.
Like $5 can't buy me like a 4-course meal. Are you
Yeah,
sure?
no, it's kind of crazy. Like, it is kind of crazy how people of older generations expect us to be able to follow the same paths that they did, when they just have because they're so just out of touch with what reality is. Where it's like, you could be 10 years older than me and be so out of touch with reality and just expect me to follow a path that you followed. But I can't do that. I can't. If I were to follow the same exact path that you
It
followed,
wouldn't work for you.
I'd be under a bridge.
Yeah.
Because now everything's more expensive. It's harder to do things now than it maybe was 10, 15 years
There's
ago.
interest rates on houses and the
I
apartment
think a lot of
rent
older
is
generations
nuts.
like stop paying attention almost. Like once
Yeah,
they
that's what I'm
like
saying.
they
It's
get
actually out
their
of
house,
touch.
they have their kids, they had like retire, get all that, this and that. I don't really know how
Yeah,
that
you pay
works,
attention
but,
to the
like,
housing market when you need to.
Like then they're like, well,
It's your
nothing
cycle.
has changed that much in like 50 years. But then if you have to actually take a step back and actually like look at the numbers every once in a while, like yes, it really
But
has.
it's funny because they like to remind you, it's like, oh, well, I bought my house back in whatever, and it cost me 82 cents in a gallon of milk to buy
Yeah.
my house. Like,
Cool.
well,
Buy me a house for 82 cents.
It's like, oh, well, gas in my day was, you know, 25 cents. Like, well, that's not how it works, so I can't do the same thing you did because the world is completely different.
Yeah.
I think the
And
big thing.
wages are much higher.
No.
I think the big thing that I try to offer people, especially like recently, over the past few years, it's been one of those things where a lot of people have come to ask me for advice, like, especially when it comes to more so like the business world, like, you know, starting companies and stuff like that. And I tell people the same thing. Look, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm really not. But what I can tell you is I can offer you the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah.
And you know, instead of trying to tell people how they should do things or what they should do, a lot of what I offer people is, you know, my experiences and how I messed up. And you can either take it or you can't. If I was this generation, what I would be asking previous generations is like, all right, maybe I can't learn a lot from you on what the housing market was back then, because it's been really different. Maybe I can't really talk to you about inflation because things have become super inflated. But when you were starting your career, what were the mistakes that you made? Because that's something that doesn't change, right? Like, you know, you can learn from the mistakes that or when you were getting into your first home, what were the mistakes that you, like, we could all learn from previous mistakes. I mean, history, when you look at it, since we are all history nerds, what we learn most from history are the mistakes that were made historically. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to learn from historical mistakes. Do we actually? Not so much. I mean, we tend to try to let it repeat itself.
So repeat itself.
But that's the thing. And honestly, like, you know, if you're a younger person listening to this broadcast, which I kind of hope we get some young audience listening. We tend to have a pretty mixed bag of listeners. You know, you don't have to figure it all out on your own. And I get it. It's the empowerment movement we have going on and we started that empowerment movement with our millennial generation. Like, you know, we could be self-sufficient, and I'm not saying you can't be self-sufficient, but being self-sufficient doesn't mean you have to be an island unto yourself. Being self-sufficient means being able to figure it out, and it's okay to ask, you know, for help, and it's okay to become, you know, be part of a greater community. It's okay to you know, work with people from different with different experiences and backgrounds to achieve your goals, and it's okay to not try to carry it all on your own shoulders, you know. And for your older generation that's listening to this, reach out to a young pup, but do it without trying to sound condescending.
Yeah, because everybody needs perspective. I mean, you can't just be old and use being old as an excuse for not having perspective.
Being older doesn't always make somebody wiser.
No,
Like,
because
That's
if
very
you
wise
don't,
words from Gen Z right there.
if you
Look
don't,
at that.
if you don't have perspective, then you're no better than the people that you're calling stupid.
Well, but the Bible does have a lot of insight as to how the young can learn from the wisdom of the older generations, but it does go back to what you're saying. You have to have some wisdom to offer. Now, wisdom from an older generation means that you're coming at it from a position of love and a position of caring, rather than a position of I'm such and such years old. Nothing turns somebody off more than, I am such and such years old. I've been walking this earth since long before you were born, and this is blah, 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 blah. Because I don't know about you, but my ears just turn right off. Okay.
Yeah, as soon as it sounds like, oh, I'm older, so I'm better than you. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's the same way I feel when I get the whole, I was 20 years old, I had a house. It's like,
Yeah.
but I don't care. Like, I just don't care.
Like, I think a lot of older generations also have like selective memory. Like they like to remember the good things. Like, oh yeah, I had a house when I was 20. I was like, yeah, what else did you do?
Yeah.
Well, I worked and paid my bills. Exactly.
And
I
you
don't
got
wanna do that.
asbestos, you have mesothelioma.
Dial. And then they have like all the same number now. The
Yeah.
lawyers got smart because what
You
what
got
it is
dial.
they're getting sold that they can't remember the
They
phone
dial
numbers
come.
anymore. So they're like, just dial 444
Yeah,
4444.
yeah, 1-800-LAW.
Oh man, we're gonna start wrapping this up shortly. I just have a couple of things I want to share. We're not saying that when you start getting into like what we believe, you can enjoy your life. The Bible teaches us in Ecclesiastes 11. It says, "Young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you are still young. Do what you want to do and follow your heart's desire. But remember that God is going to judge you for what you do. Don't let anything worry you or cause you pain. You aren't going to be young very long." Basically, what this is saying in Ecclesiastes is, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to have a good time, but do it in a way that honors God. I also love what it says in Luke chapter 11, verse 9. "And I tell you, ask and it will be given to you. Seek, you will find it. Knock and it will be open to you." You don't have to go through your journey alone. You're walking in and you're praying about a career. Maybe you're in college, you're finishing up your voc school, or you're graduating high school and you're waiting for your next step. It's okay to pray and ask God to help you with your next steps, your next direction. It's okay to ask God to send the right people in your life to surround you with the proper encouragement and the proper support system. Look, when you're surrounded by an army, I know that the saying goes, it takes a village, and it's generally like designated towards like raising children. But honestly, like in life, it takes a village. Period. Like I don't know about you, but I still lean very heavily like on my support system, my friends, my family. A little while ago we were talking about Sierra and her journey, and you know what? She's killing it, but I know she leans on her support system. I mean, she doesn't have to lean too hard because we all like to steal that baby from her.
listen, the amount of times I'll text my mom and be like, "Ethan is doing this. Is this normal?" And she's like, "It's completely normal." And I'm like, "Okay, that's all I needed to hear."
That's only when mom can wrestle her away from either dad, your auntie, your grandma, or your Mimi. Or like if Tio Josh is there, Tio Josh has no problem. So
Baby likes me as well.
Yes,
He does like
Uncle Dom.
Egg, Uncle Egg.
Uncle Egg. I'm sorry. I apologize. But it is something that we don't have to go through this life alone. But most importantly, we don't have to go through this life alone in the spiritual sense. We've gotten to that part of the program, Will, where we're going to make that invitation. And maybe you're listening today and you don't know who Jesus Christ is as your personal Savior. Maybe like Sierra was mentioning a little while ago, you're in that phase where you're trying to figure out what's next and where you stand with stuff. Hopefully, if you're in that stage of life, you have a bunch of people praying for you, like Sierra had praying for her, because gotcha, Sierra, right? But
Been got.
she's been got. But we always like to offer you the opportunity to get to know who Jesus Christ is. You know, the Bible says that God sent His Son to this world not to condemn this world, but that the world through Him might be saved. And He did that through sending Jesus Christ to die for our sins. It's a very simple process. You know, you cry out to God and ask Him for forgiveness. And if you repent for your sins, He's going to come into your life and He's going to take care of you. If you're interested in accepting the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior, just reach out to us. Go to our website, www.temporaryinsanitypodcast.com. There's about 1,000 different ways to reach out. We have people that are always ready and able to talk to you and to pray with you. And we just want to go on that journey with you together. Accept the Lord into your life. Listen, I don't care how old you are. You may be Gen Y, Gen Z, millennial, great generation, alpha dog generation. If you're in the great generation and you don't have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you might want to hop on that sooner rather than later.
Definitely taken for that.
Yeah, probably maybe 6 of you alive.
They
so
have
you better get
gout. All 6 of them have gout too.
The Lord
They all have gout.
The Lord can definitely help you with the gout.
Lupus, man.
So I mean, and also the Bible does teach: don't put off till tomorrow what you should be doing today. Hey, listen, for those of you who've known me for a while and we're in my youth group class, I always told my youth, I says, you know, you never know what can happen when you walk out of a building. You might cross the street and get hit by a Mack truck.
Literally half of your youth group is saying
Right, literally a good handful of you guys. And so on Tuesday, I was walking out of a hair salon and I was crossing a parking lot. And wouldn't you know, I almost got hit by a Mack truck. And
actually?
That's
I
irony.
did. Did you not see the group chat where I was talking about getting almost hit by a Mack truck?
I can't. I don't have the time in the world
read
to look
that.
at the group chat.
Well, yeah.
Occasionally I'll see maybe they're talking about something interesting and I'll say
I
one or
thought
two
he was
things.
talking about like iPhone Max, so I thought he was talking about
This is
like
a
a
computer
Mac,
truck.
like
No, no.
computer
Like a truck holding
I think we were on our way to
computers.
Berea one day where Josh just screamed Mac truck, and
I
I was
pointed
like,
it out
"That's
to you."
what you meant?"
Oh yeah, it's
I
like
think you almost
what's
died.
his name from Mac from Cars. Right? That was
Yeah.
the
Oh,
trailer.
it was Mac.
Yeah, Mac.
So-
Well, I was never a Cars person.
So yeah,
Well, come on, what are we doing?
I am now though. I
Yeah,
love
all
Cars.
right.
My
How are we not
daughter-
a Cars person.
my daughter was with me, and she almost witnessed her dad get hit by a Mack truck. And my sister, who had just finished cutting my daughter's hair, almost witnessed me get hit by said Mack truck. So I literally tell you today on the podcast, do not put off till tomorrow what you should be doing today, because you may very well leave your car right now from listening to this podcast, close the door, cross that parking lot, and get hit by the same maniac Mack truck that almost hit me. Who speeds that way inside of a parking lot?
Mack
I mean,
truck killer,
Especially
he's
in a
lying.
Mac truck.
listen, Mack truck driver, if you know who you are, because you saw my face, because I was that close to your windshield. If you don't know who the Lord Jesus Christ is, you need to accept Him into your life. So, just reach out. We'd love to talk to you, and we'd love to pray with you. And honestly, we'd love to set you up with the Bible so you can get close to God and get to know who He is. So, guys, what do you think? I think we did all right today.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
It was good.
I
It was a good
enjoyed- I
podcast.
enjoyed talking with you.
Get to know these young people's voices. We'd love to have them on. We have some cool episodes coming up that we'll get them on here for. I'm afraid about what's going to happen in some of our history episodes.
Go crazy.
Sierra's already giving us a disclaimer that she's going to go crazy.
So
So
we're on the same page about some
See,
stuff.
but like my point, like I love the Revolutionary
Native
War stuff.
Americans.
So if it's like, if it's anything like Revolutionary War, President related, I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
go
we're gonna start from the
crazy.
beginning. We're gonna start from the beginning on some stuff.
well,
You know you love starting from the
I
beginning
love
and
starting from the beginning.
My people were
Twice.
taken out of their
Twice.
land. We
Twice.
get it.
You don't though. You don't.
I do.
I have a feeling we're going to have some very interesting episodes coming up. But Sierra and Dominic, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks for
today.
having me, buddy. Appreciate it. And Will.
Mr. William.
I'm regular now. They don't have to thank me.
Thank you, Will.
William, you want to say goodbye to our friends?
Yeah. Happy Friday. Talk to you next week. Have a good day. Peace.
Bye.
Check out my podcast with Will. 3 a.m. in the party.
Graham in the party. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. I love it.
He did say he was gonna do
I
it.
said I would do it.
I had no doubt in my mind. All right.
It's not as in-depth
Next
as
up,
this.
you're gonna hear my boy
It's
Aiden
fun,
talk us out, close us out of the program. Make sure you check out his. Hey, Aiden. Aiden's also in the room with us today.
Aiden's here.
I'm getting messages from your website from some of your fans. They're saying hello. So if you haven't gone to Aiden's official voiceover website, he's becoming more popular than I am. So he's going to close out the program today. But go to www.aidenpereira.com Aiden, take it away, my man. See you all next week. Fridays at noon. God bless you.
Peace. No goodbye from William.
Now he's gonna go back. Well, I already said peace.
He did say peace.
That was fun.
Sweet. Did it even feel like an hour and 40 minutes, guys?
I think towards the end I was starting to feel it.
It
That's
felt
'cause
like 3
I'm
hours.
so
That's because
hungry.
you said you were so hungry when we
I'm
got here.
so
I know, I'm
hungry.
I was
starving.
actually surprised you lasted as long as you did, because I was watching, so I was like, this guy's gonna turn into like a beast mode.
You know what's
doing
crazy?
work by
Halfway
candlelight
through that,
all
I was like, I might.
Yeah,
The light.
I'm going old school. Yeah.
I'm so hungry.
Are you gonna mess with your lighting?
I don't know
You're
what I'm
okay.
doing
Like, I didn't get too much on you, did I? Were you okay? Okay, no, like I didn't want to blow up your spot too crazily, because I kind of gave you like a back and forth with the whole like walking away thing, but then I kind of like rebutted you a little bit.
Okay.
I almost forgot what Uncle Will said.
I just want to make you feel uncomfortable with it.
I'm
you know?
open about my life. I don't care.
I feel like once you pass a certain timeline, it's like.
Once you have the kid, you gotta
Yeah,
be
it's
open
gotta
with
be
your
up
life.
for
No, but I mean, it's not like I was calling you out on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you came back, so it's kind of like. So I was just looking at it from the perspective of like, but wait, did you really? Because like, not for nothing, you know.
Anything that we said is things people mostly know. Wait, is this still recording?
It is still recording. You want to say hi to everybody? So this video in particular, pretty much.